You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
On today's show, we're celebrating the Retired Racehorse Project's 15th anniversary with founder Steuart Pittman and executive director Kirsten Green. We then bring you some training tips for the horse who likes to take the reins, quite literally, with Amanda Tucker from New Vocations, and we introduce you to our adoptable horse of the week. Stay tuned. This is Joy Orr in Detroit, Michigan.
And this is Kristen Kovach-Bentley in Jamestown, New York, and you are listening to Retired Racehorse Radio.
And they're off on Retired Racehorse Radio, the podcast that is your guide to the adoption, care, and training of the retired racehorse.
I hate winter, Kristen.
It is a little long. All the years of me being like, I love winter on this show are really coming back to bite me this year. So I apologize. I mean, I've brought this on us.
I know like February literally is the hell freezing over period of winter. I was like really loving, being isolated and taking time of self-reflection and slowing down. And now I just look outside and like, there's ice and I'm cold.
Yeah, the ice is no good. We were getting along pretty good. I was getting out for hacks and then we had one warm day and then some rain and then that dropped to like 10 degrees and it is a literal ice rink. Like every day when I'm trying to put my old dog in the truck to go home, I'm like, I'm going to fall down carrying this old dog, but at least we had a good run, she and I. So it's yet to happen, knock wood, but like one of these days I'm going to bite it and it's going to be real bad.
I feel bad for the animals. Like my dog's struggling more than my horse because she walks out, like takes her sweet time to walk over everything. I'm like, you're doing great, sweetie. Like the Kris Jenner quote.
The horses are really sensible about it, aren't they? Like they're like, okay.
Like Astrid's like, whatever. This is
now
fine.
The dogs are like, I'll just kill myself. That's fine. Like they just like jump right out of the car and completely wipe out the two young dogs. The old dog is like, I will wait for you to put me down. Like a sensible individual.
Your pointer poodle, like
they're something else. Yeah, they're not.
They're not real dogs.
No, I don't know what they are. They are bizarre. You know what you need, Joy? You need to come visit me this weekend because we're recording this right before President's Day weekend, which is in a very hallmark moment. The little town where I live outside of Jamestown. It is the lighting of the ice castle this weekend. So we have a team of people building. They've been working on this at the Chautauqua Lake. They've been cutting these massive ice blocks because we had a really good year for ice. So they've been cutting massive ice blocks and like building a literal ice castle in the park. So
that's actually really cute and really fun.
It is very cute. And it's a long-standing village tradition to like have this President's Weekend festival. And it's like a celebration of winter, but then also hopefully it's like goodbye to winter and it starts to warm up after this. But then, of course, then you get the sad process of watching the ice castle melt for the next several weeks. So that part's a little depressing. But yeah, they'll be lighting it up Friday night. So grab a warm coat and join us. And then maybe the small town girl will come home and find her, lumberjack true love who built the ice castle or, however these Hallmark movies go. It'll be great.
I mean, as a married woman, you might find that person at home when you come back. I would question him why he's in your house. So
yeah, I'll just have Eric wear his, lumberjack coat and look burly. It'll be fine.
There you go. But oh my gosh. Oh, if I can't make it, I want to see pictures. I'm sure listeners would too, because that just sounds quite adorable.
It's very precious. Yeah. And I know I owe listeners, everyone's like, where are the videos of Wes flinging his head? And I need to go back and find some because that was a very hotly requested video clip after our last episode about the standardbred head tossing. So
I know
I have homework for sure. I'm sorry, listeners.
It's okay.
I'll do better.
You're doing what you can, but yeah, do better.
Just trying to keep everything alive over here.
It really is like talk about the mantra for winter is keeping everything alive.
Yeah, especially this winter. I mean, I know we've been saying this like ad nauseum for the past 4 episodes, but yeah. Shorty's still in like Club Med. He's down in Kentucky. Like it was 70 degrees the other day, so they opened all the windows and he was like, this is amazing. So he's in for a rough shock when he comes home. But knock wood, he should be coming home in a couple of weeks. So
that's exciting. Although, are you afraid he's going to try to re-injure himself to enjoy his best life down there?
So they're going to start him on turnout down there, which I hopefully, if he has any stupid in his system, he'll clear it and leave it in Kentucky. I mean, he's going to immediately get here and be like, oh, I need to like work on staying warm. And I'm hoping that will be enough to kind of like keep the edge off. So, but yeah, the actual like surgical site is healed up really nicely. So we went ahead and splurged on a follow-up visit from Root and Riddle, who's right in town, in Lexington. So they came out and he was quite due for a trim. So they gave him a trim. They replaced the shoe that was on there with a different shoe that has, I haven't seen it yet. So it has like a mesh or webbing over the bottom, and then it has a patch and a plug over the top. So nothing can go in the hole where they, kind of like drilled down through the foot to take the keratoma out. And then he should be cleared for turnout. So yeah, when the footing is good down there, they're going to start him on a small pen and then kind of graduate up from there. And then he'll go out. I think it'll be easier up here because we have so much snow. It'll be very clean. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be exciting. Fingers crossed he gets to come home soon.
Yeah. Like I hope it's exciting, but not too exciting. You know what I mean? Like.
Yes. Not exciting
Nice.
for him, but
Nice
exciting
and
for you and
mellow.
Eric. And I'm sure he's missing his horse.
I think it's going to be very exciting for Jobber. Jobber is very bored and he misses his punching bag. So.
Yeah. But I'm sure Wes is kind of enjoying Jobber has to be his friend to some degree right now.
Yeah, I think they're like, well, they look at each other and they're like, all right. So they've been spending time together. It's one of those like Jobber still doesn't like him to leave, but he doesn't want him too close. So
it sounds like one of those like young, like coming of age movies where like a jock and a nerd have to get along to some degree.
Yes. I'm not sure which one is which.
Well, Wes isn't the most athletic, but that's okay.
Yeah, Jobber's probably the jock. Yeah, you're right. How about you guys? What are you and what's Astrid up to these days?
Astrid is living her best life, but we've been playing with some Liberty work, which has been fun. It's been a really nice way to stimulate her brain. She enjoys coming in, which I actually thought she wouldn't like now that she gets to live a semi-feral life with her friends outside. But she does like the break and she likes the attention coming inside and she likes games. Her favorite is tag, which, playing tag with your horse sounds really fun, very heartland. Sometimes we get exuberant.
I was going to say, I was like, maybe your horse. Talk about horses you would not want to play tag with. Do not play tag with Wes. I think you would get punched in the back of the head.
Yeah,
but I'm glad that Astrid is a lot better.
She's pretty good, but she definitely has her moments. Or we play hide and seek, which sometimes upsets her, but for the most part, she really enjoys it.
Oh, interesting. Like, where do you hide?
Just in random places, like behind the mounting block, behind some hay. Like sometimes I just leave the arena and hide behind the railing, and she likes to try to find me. And then when she does, she like canters over. It's very cute.
Oh, that's very cute.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think that would deeply emotionally traumatize Jobber. But now I really want to try it.
I think, I wouldn't suggest it for every horse, because if you have a horse who's very herd bound or doesn't like to be alone, it might not be the best game. But she likes puzzles and she knows there's always a treat at the end of it when she finds me. So it keeps her occupied. So
yeah, she has the right personality for it. I feel like mares are a little more independent that way. Yeah, like Jobber's like, you're my emotional support animal. You cannot leave me. So yeah, that's nice.
But yeah, it's been good. And, I think as we get closer to springtime, I might do some like in-hand trail stuff for her just to keep her brain busy. She's got a very active brain and she likes to try new things. And she loves tarps. Like the only horse I've ever had who enjoys and actively seeks out a tarp to stand on.
That's fun. It's almost like target training.
Exactly. So I've done some with like water bottles on it that like crinkle and make noise when she steps on it. And we've done some with rubber ducks in there. So just find different things for her to occupy her brain with. But it's a weird like slow down period for me. But I think it's been good because it's challenging like how I bond with horses in a different way.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Because I've been thinking of like trying to come up with enrichment activities for my guys because we're sort of grounded with all this ice. So yeah, you've inspired me.
If you're not worried about insulin resistance, although I actually use pea pellets a lot for treats so they don't overstuff on sugar. So I alternate between like the good stuff, like a zero proof horse treat and then some alfalfa pellets. But One of the first ones I did with her, because she actually was afraid of new spaces, is I would hide little traits on different objects that would normally spook her. And she would go up to it, sniff it, and then find them. So now she actively searches everything that's new to her.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that. I should do that with Wes, because Wes is a little timid about exploring new things.
Yeah, it was an easy one and definitely got her brain working. So, and had positive results.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, these thoroughbreds, their brains are so active. That's half the battle, is just trying to find ways to keep them thinking, not necessarily working physically hard, because unlike a quarter horse, you're never going to wear them out. So you can't just lope them down, like you would with a quarter horse. But yeah, you've got to work the brain. So yeah, if you can find ways to keep that brain engaged, that's most of the battle, I think. So yeah, well done. Absolutely.
And it's been cool because the other boarders have joined into with their horses. So it's been either too cold to ride or, horses been squirrely to ride because they're not moving as much outside. So it's just kind of been a fun way to see people engaging with their horses differently. And so it's been nice overall, even though it's a challenge. And there's a part of me that misses riding. There's other horses I could hop on, but I don't know. It's kind of forced me to challenge myself to slow down and think about things too. But I think eventually I will ride again. I'm always looking at new horses. I just can't help myself.
Well, I know where to find some adoptable ones.
I know. We'll be talking about it in this episode. I'm really excited to see who Amanda brings forward for us. But before we get into all the good things of this episode, you're going to hear from our premier sponsor, Kentucky Performance Products.
This nutritional minute is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products. Biotin is a B vitamin and has become commonplace in feed rooms across the world because of its reputation as an effective hoof supplement. An interesting fact that was discovered by researchers looking at biotin's impact on hoof quality was that horses with normal blood levels of biotin still had poor quality hoof horn, and that despite normal blood levels, horses responded to high doses of biotin given orally. This tells us that unhealthy hooves are not necessarily a result of a deficiency. Over the years, multiple other studies have found a statistically significant improvement in overall hoof condition when horses are supplemented with at least 20 milligrams of biotin per day. Researchers found that if improvement in hoof quality was seen within 8 to 15 months of supplementation, the horse would need to remain on biotin the rest of its life to maintain that improvement. Other nutrients such as zinc, methionine, and iodine can also affect hoof quality. A well-balanced hoof supplement will contain all of these nutrients in addition to the 20 milligrams of biotin per serving. When you're looking for an affordable, effective hoof supplement, we recommend Caraform Hoof and Coat Supplement. If you want a show ring shine and strong, healthy hooves, you can count on Caraform. You can learn more about Caraform at kppusa.com. Got questions about your feeding program? We can help. Email Karen at questions@kppusa.com or call us at 859-873-2974.
Well, Joy, this show is produced in partnership with the Retired Racehorse Project, and we're really excited today because it's the 15-year anniversary of the RRP as an organization, and it's also the 10-year anniversary this year of the makeover being in Kentucky, in that form and format that we all know and love. So I'm super pumped today to have with us not only the executive director of the RRP, Kirsten Green, but the founder, Steuart Pittman, who's also county executive of Anne Arundel County. So thank you both for joining us today.
Great to be here. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. I don't think Steuart and I have ever been jointly interviewed like this. So this will be interesting.
Oh, fun. All right. So we're breaking new ground here. And yeah, we're letting Steuart talk about, his passion project. So I think that's always going to be fun. So yeah, let's just jump right in. So Steuart, you kicked off the RRP 15 years ago. So what were your motivations in getting this organization started?
They weren't exactly what people think. I didn't get into it because I wanted to save horses. Even though I wanted to do that. What really led me to it was, so I was a trainer of horses and people, and I had made my living figured out finally how to make a living. First getting horses off the track, training them and selling them as event horses. And I always had, 4 or 5 going at the same time. And then I started doing a bit of breeding with a thoroughbred off the track as a stallion. And that never worked out very well. And that was frustrating because, there's so many places where breeding horses, things go wrong before you even ever get on their backs. And so that wasn't financially, didn't make much sense. As I got going, I got some students and I was able to get paid to train other people's horses. But the clientele was always more off-track thoroughbreds than anything else. I did warm bloods also, and whatever came my way, tried to make a buck. And I became more and more frustrated with in eventing. I'd seen it in the show horse world, in dressage and show jumpers, that the transition to European warm bloods. And I'd been involved in that since I was a teenager, working at a Swedish warm blood farm. But I always liked thoroughbreds better. And I felt as though they were always getting a raw deal, that they were, if you really wanted to teach somebody to ride and train a horse, especially a young person who didn't have a lot of fear, that it was better on thoroughbreds because they were more sensitive and they were smarter, in my view, and more fun. And that there was not a breed association. There was the jockey club, of course, but not anything that was really promoting the breed for the way other breeds get promoted for sport horses. And that frustrated me. And I felt in the back of my mind like there needed to be that. But I also got a little bit into, I would take my stallion to the Maryland and Pennsylvania Horse World Expos to promote him as a breeding stallion. He was a thoroughbred horse. And they needed somebody to do sessions on eventing for the public, where you kind of have an hour and you get hundreds of people gathered around, usually not big enough arena. And you do demonstrations about training. And, you watch the cowboys do their natural horsemanship thing. And it's partly just being able to talk to the audience and connect with people who, are only peripherally involved. And I did some of those, and that was really fun. And I thought, well, maybe I should do more of that in my business. But it was really the thoroughbreds that seemed to be the most fun, again, like with everything else. So I thought, let's do a training symposium and see if anybody's interested. And we got a big indoor arena. It was at a Maryland Therapeutic Riding here in Anne Arundel County, because they had the best arena around. And we put out the word on, I had email list, and I think there was a little bit of social media at that time. And we called it the Retired Racehorse Training Symposium. And 350 people showed up from about 10 states. And we had, maybe 6 or 8 horses at different levels of training, where we demonstrated what they were learning. And I emceed it. And it was kind of wildly successful. We made CDs of it. I remember getting in my basement a CD printer where you could make multiple copies. And we sold them, for $5 or something, and mailed them out to people. And from the success of that, a friend named Melinda Lawrence, who's an attorney, said she could figure out how to get an IRS designation for a nonprofit. And we created the nonprofit of the Retired Racehorse, at that point, Training Project. We took out the word training to make it shorter and briefer. And it took off from there.
That's funny. I have this image now of you cranked over basically a CD burner in a basement somewhere.
Well,
that's like a fun running joke in the RRP is Kirsten was always like, this organization started in Steuart's basement, so there it is.
Yeah. And I still haven't cleaned up the basement since then, but.
Really?
There's an old CD burner down there somewhere, just waiting.
The CD burner is there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I definitely remember cleaning out the DVDs, when we did finally move out of the basement.
The humble early days. So, how big did you think it was going to get, at the time when you first got, the IRS designation?
Well, I always had a grand vision, because I always felt as though, I watched, The Road to the Horse and the Mustang Makeover. And then, I always had a sense that horses have this, are marketable to a very broad audience, even non-horse people. When a really good horse movie comes out, it's really popular. So I thought that there was the potential to reach audiences, really large audiences. And we started with the Horse Expo route. The Maryland and Pennsylvania Horse Expo, we pitched to them that we could do a trainer competition. And the first one was 3 trainers that we selected, and they each got a horse. In fact, the first expo, they got it at the Maryland Expo. I think we had maybe 4 horses. We had 1 alternate, I think. We brought them in right off the track, hadn't been sat on since they'd raced, and kind of ran them around a round pen and let them hop over a little X, I think. And the trainers got to choose a horse. They had, I think they drew straws to see who would get to choose first. And they explained why they chose the horse. And that was part of the educational thing. And then they had, I think it was about 6 weeks between the expos, to bring the horse back to the Pennsylvania Expo and show what they had done and be judged. And they did videos along the way. And we did a good enough job on the YouTube stuff that it started to develop an audience. And then we did another one of those the next year. And then we did various versions of that before we did the first makeover at Pimlico Racetrack. And that's where Kirsten came in, I think, first to run stabling. Is that right?
Yeah, roughly. I very initially got involved at the beginning of 2013 with the trainer challenge that had Declan's Moon and Suave Jazz and Gunport, and I had a little business on the side, doing grooming and braiding and clipping and stuff, and I was just trying to kind of build a little bit of a network. And so I said that I would clip all of the horses for the kind of indoor expo circuit, and that's kind of where it started.
Yeah, we called that one the 100-Day Thoroughbred Challenge. And it was a little bit different than the first trainer challenge in that we decided to go to thoroughbred industry farms that breed and race. And we asked them if they had a horse that we could use for this thing. And we brought them all to our farm in Davidsonville so that they were all trained in the same place with the same people. And we did a lot of video of that. Comparing the horses. And I think people voted for which horse would be good at what sport. And as they watched the videos. And I remember that one was a lot of fun, but it was a deliberate effort to get farms. We had Sagamore, that was Kevin Plank's. They've closed it down since, had one of the horses. And Walnut Hill, I think, was one. They were major operations.
Yeah, Country Life.
So they got involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And very Maryland, right? That's very mid-Atlantic, regional, but it's clearly grown from there. So,
yeah, and we were kind of deliberate we were in Maryland because I was in Maryland and we were in Maryland and started the Maryland Expo and all of that. But it was a good move to start in Maryland because the Maryland horse racing industry is more multidiscipline. That there are, when you go to the farms, especially the ones that have been around a long time, you find families that have been in the show horse world and fox hunting and steeplechase, and so it's a little less isolated. When you go to Kentucky, it's flat racing, it's thoroughbred, and that's all they know. So they understood what we were doing when we went to. I remember especially the first group was the Maryland Horse Breeders Association, and of course I was trying to raise some money from them. And I pitched what we were doing and said, it's the good old fashioned thing that, we all used to do, which was get a horse off the track and then, go fox hunting or do some steeplechase or do these other things. And we're trying to bring that back. And that, we believe that this is a market-based solution. There's a whole industry out here that the racing industry needs to tap into if they want the horses to be transitioned professionally and well into second careers. And that's what we're trying to offer to you guys. And you guys should pony up with some money to sponsor it. And they got it. They got it right away. And it was the folks from Maryland who knew folks in Kentucky that made it possible to get the door open in Kentucky a little bit to expand that way.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I love this sort of historical look at it. So let's talk about that move to Kentucky, and then Kirsten, we want to learn more about how you got involved too, but what inspired that, step from Maryland to Kentucky and, how'd you get that started?
So we did the makeover at Pimlico for 2 years, and there were a couple of downsides to it. One was we were on the backstretch of the racetrack, which for some of the horses was a little bit trying. They thought they were there to race. But it also wasn't big enough to do all the things we really wanted to be able to do. And the Kentucky Horse Park we knew that was the one place that we could do a really multi-discipline. And we had so many people who wanted to participate because we had grown it. So I can't remember the numbers, but a dozen or so. You might remember, Kirsten. How many did we have at the last makeover before we went to Kentucky?
That was the first year that we had the 10 disciplines. We did 26 in 2013, and then it was 10 in 2014.
Oh, right. Yeah, we got into this idea of 10 disciplines, which is really hard to do on the racetrack. Running portable cross-country jumps, it was crazy. Anyway, but they were great events because we had indoor seminars, we had the trade area, we had and the stuff going out on the track. So we figured out we could expand if we went to the Kentucky Horse Park. And we also figured the racing industry the thoroughbred industry is based there, so it can grow there. So we had gotten Thoroughbred Charities of America involved, and they have a little bit of a base here in Maryland and Delaware. Herb Mullis was one of the founders of that, was a Delaware thoroughbred owner. And Mike Pons, the Pons family, was instrumental in getting us connected with Thoroughbred Charities of America. They had given us a little grant, I think. And so it was they who helped us connect in Kentucky. And I remember, I'll never forget, the first meeting where we went out to the Secretariat Center at the horse park. They agreed to be a venue where we could do a presentation to the industry who we would need the support of, including the aftercare organizations that had started there, and pitched this makeover concept. And there were a lot of people in a little room. I think we did a little slideshow. We might have had a video. And it was not a completely warm reception. We were outsiders coming in to Kentucky saying, we know how to do this.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And there was a little bit of a Thoroughbred Aftercare Alliance started right around the same time that we did. And so there was a little bit of competition there. And it was, we said we needed $100,000 in prize money. We didn't know where we were going to get it. And we threw out some number of horses that we thought we could get to participate. And we were all in, like we were ready to go. I mean, we had some money raised, but less than half. And so there was a lot of skepticism. But you sort of follow where you get a little bit of warmth and a little bit of interest. You follow that and you push that, and we managed to really, I think, surprise a lot of people that we pulled it off that first year. And then it got better and better from there. But yeah, it was going into a strange land, it felt like. But it was the only thing that could have grown the makeover the way it grew, because there was nowhere in Maryland we could do it, and we needed to be more in the center of the country to make it national.
I have a question, because it came up for me recently. And I wasn't fully integrated into the staff at this point. And I think the point at which you took this meeting, I might have been there 30 or 60 days or something like that. How did we decide on the format? Like the start your horse in the winter, 10 months, October, was it just a matter of when we could get a date at the horse park, or was there some other angle? How did we arrive at that?
We had done these training competition-like things with shorter time periods, and everybody was telling us and me, and I knew, of course, that if you really want to show the talents of these horses, it just takes more time than 100 days or 6 weeks or whatever. And so doing an annual event meant we could have up to a year, and so that was where that was just a natural, obvious thing to do, is to give people time to really then show up in Kentucky and do impressive stuff. And then I remember the process of trying to create formats and rules for all 10 sports and, meeting with all kinds of people about it and running ideas by people in the different sports. I remember meeting with the Mustang Makeover people too, and they were okay with us stealing the word makeover, which is, nobody owns that word.
Right.
And that we were in some ways trying to replicate what they did. What's kind of cool to me looking back is that those formats haven't changed a whole. I mean, every year you do some rule changes, but that it's kind of worked somehow. Yeah.
That's crazy to think that the Mustang makeover has been going on as long or longer, because I feel like that only came kind of onto my radar, I guess, about the same time as the Thoroughbred makeover. But that's been a long-standing program for those folks.
Yeah, it was before. In fact, I think it was even bigger earlier on when they had more money.
And they have an even short, like, don't they have like 30-day challenges, which to me is wild, to take a completely untouched feral horse and like be running around cracking a whip on its back and all the crazy stuff they do. So the Thoroughbred makeover to me makes a lot more sense. So I love that. So Kirsten, let's talk a little bit about how you came on, because now, we know you started as a volunteer clipper and braider, and now you're executive director. So what was that trajectory like?
I think I have for 10 years now called myself like the first full-time employee of RRP, and mentioned fondly the about 2 years that I spent working in Steuart's basement. I was joking with his wife the other day about how their twin boys were like not even in preschool yet, I don't think, and now they're about to get their driver's licenses. But yeah, I had come up in a circle in Maryland that had, some overlap with Steuart. The farm where I grew up, Ready Mead Farm, was Jane Sigler's, and who was a close colleague of Steuart's through Maryland Horse Council. And he would actually come and teach at Ready Mead a little bit when I was, still in high school. And then when I kind of moved towards Anne Arundel County, and kind of maintained my horse connections, I kind of took a time off where I didn't think that I was going to be a rider, and I knew I wasn't going to be a rider. Like, I enjoy riding, but I'm not ever going to be that competitive. And went off and did some other stuff, and then started my little clipping business, and that really kind of helped me get back into the horse community in Anne Arundel County. And I did clip the horses first, and then it was, as Steuart said, he put out just a kind of call for volunteers and interest in doing the first makeover at Pimlico in 2013. And they needed somebody to do stall assignments and just kind of keep an eye on things, because that year we actually got to use the stakes barn at Pimlico. So we just kind of had to make sure everybody respected the place and treated it well. And I did that. And I kind of went on throughout the winter. And I think it was in the spring of 2014 where I just kind of decided I was ready for a change with what I was doing, and that I knew that there was ways that I could be involved in the horse industry and not be a rider. And that my skill set was going to be probably at a desk, and was there something that I could find to do? So I just kind of updated my resume and sent it out to every horse contact that I knew. And I guess I had done a good enough job and made a good enough impression that I think Steuart was like, we're ready to have an employee, basically. And that was kind of it. It was summer of 2014 that I kind of first got on payroll part-time, and I had to be coerced a little bit. RRP still felt really young, and it felt like I was taking a big risk to come and work at a very startup type organization. And I still very distinctly to this day remember Steuart telling me RRP isn't going anywhere. And he was right. And so, I came on full-time, worked part-time for the rest of 2014 and came on full-time right about this time in 2015, and have just never left. I have not worked anywhere this long previously.
Isn't it amazing that you never left? Because I was really mean, wasn't I?
I mean, you weren't mean. The higher the pitch, the bigger the light. No, I'm just
You
kidding.
didn't always agree on everything, right?
No, we definitely didn't always agree on things. And I think like I've at this point had the honor of like speaking to college classes and stuff about careers. And I've said that like sometimes the best bosses that you have are the hardest ones to work for because you learn more that way. And I really feel that way about working with Steuart. Like I've always been like a kind of rigid type A person, and every bit of working with Steuart was like, okay, have a plan and also be okay with being willing to throw it out the window and do something else. And it, I think, really just kind of shaped me professionally into somebody that was like more dynamic. But
well, and I think too, like in a small nonprofit, like you kind of need that, right? Like,
yeah,
you know, if you guys agreed on everything, right, exactly. Yeah. Like you and I don't agree on everything all the time, you know, and that's fine. Like we work with it and, you know, kind of find a good way forward. And I think that's what keeps organizations like that moving forward. So,
yeah, I mean, we're not like, we have certainly kind of like matured a bit as an organization, and that's been a big goal for me. But, you know, with the size of the organization and the nature of what we do, like you have to plan on things being fluid. And that's just, Steuart taught me how to do that. And so, yeah, he kind of came to me one day towards the end of 2017 and was like, I'm kind of following the call to go into local politics. And at the time, we thought you were still going to be around somewhat because it was county council, I think, at the time. And then that kind of, I think the like Democratic committee was just like, no, we actually need a county executive candidate. If I'm describing.
Well, yeah, the guy that we really didn't like, who was the county executive, there was nobody who was willing to run against him because they thought he couldn't be beat. And so I got talked into doing that and then somehow managed to win. So here I am sitting in my office in a whole different world, which is what makes this so much fun to have. But so, I mean, what's the friction between you and I was that our brains work very differently, partly. And I would be absolutely lost if I didn't have somebody who was detail oriented and systematic about doing things, because I don't tend to be that way. Like I come up with a good idea, but I'm not very good at actually implementing it. But I remember distinctly one moment we were setting up a booth in Kentucky and got in a big fight over some stupid little thing like wear some.
I think a like t-shirt rack had fallen over or something, and I was just kind of inconsolably stressed at that point.
Well, anyway, and I have I have lots of other people who work for me now, and I get to advise people too about their careers and things. And I have talked about you a number of times as somebody who helped me understand what I'm not good at, and allow somebody who works for me to do what I'm not good at and step back and actually allow it to happen. But at that moment, I wasn't going to allow it to happen. I can't remember who won that battle, but it wasn't a very important one. I remember that.
Probably a draw.
It was not the t-shirt rack. We know that. The t-shirt rack was on the ground. I think this is such a fun, like, organic look, though, at how, like, movements start, right? Like, you know, it'd be fun to sit here and be like, oh, yes, like the RRP was very carefully planned out and well organized, and we knew the trajectory it was going to go on. And like the reality is like it's a very human story about people trying to like help horses. So I think this is really cool.
There's one piece of
sorry. Like the makeover takeoff, like it did really force that. Like we didn't know like at the beginning of 2015 necessarily that we had lightning in a bottle, and the next several years was really shaped by hanging on basically.
So there was a little piece of the history that we missed, which was a woman named Carolyn Carlson. After I think we did our first makeover at Pimlico. No, I think this was before the first makeover at Pimlico.
She wanted to do the 26.
The 26, right. So she came I met her through my wife, Erin, who was teaching equine studies at University of Maryland. And Carolyn was a professor in another department and took a class because her racehorse she thought was too skinny and she wanted to learn about equine nutrition. And I'm sure her trainer was pulling his hair out, but she owned some racehorses and she was a horse lover. And she had some money. Her husband had made some money doing some things and that she could play with. And she found out about us and said that she would like to fund. It was after the school shootings, the Newtown school shootings in Connecticut. 26 kids and staff had been murdered. And somebody had said that everybody was doing 26 acts of kindness. And she wanted her 26 acts of kindness to be to transition 26 racehorses to second careers. And so we put that 26 horse first makeover at Pimlico together around her vision of 26 acts of kindness. And I think she gave us $1,000 for each. And $26,000 back then seemed like a lot of money. But she continued. She was on our board, and she continued to be both a donor and a real part of saying yes, we can get this done.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's been an absolute force in getting us to where we are today. TCA and Carolyn Carlson really we owe our current state to. So
yeah, I love that. All right, I have a question for both of you, and I'll let Steuart go first. I think. What are you proudest of that the RRP has achieved in its first 15 years?
It's the whole thing. I mean, I see it as one big thing. There are many little parts to the growth and how it's become stable. I guess maybe the thing I'm most proud of is that I was able to walk away and it continued to grow and get better. That's the real definition of success for me personally. To know that we started something that has continued and is still growing.
Yeah, I think that's such a good. I've been parts of small programs before, and they are reliant on the work of individuals. And, it is a mark of strength of that program if that individual can step away and it succeeds or not. And I've been parts of programs where they fall apart after that key person leaves. So yeah, I think that's a testament, to the team that you were able to build and the concept too.
Yeah, the people, particularly Kirsten, but the fact that I walked away completely helped too, because, I've seen books called Founders Syndrome, nonprofit founders who just can't pull away and they end up destroying the organization when they should just walk away. So, yeah.
All right, Kirsten, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think to Steuart's point, I've certainly always kind of credited him with knowing how to fill for the things that he wasn't good at. And he certainly did that by hiring Jen Reutz off of our board. And I would credit Jen with taking the organization national and really kind of solidifying that, and getting to follow these two guys has certainly kind of built my vision up. I didn't really think that I was a visionary like Steuart or that I had the network of Jen. And, I'm still not either of them, but that's okay. I have my own ideas now. But I think for me, as somebody that's been here as long as I have, I, of course, am very dedicated to the mission, but I'm also just really glad to see the organization really solidify. 10 years ago, it would have been hard to imagine paying rent on an office even. And just the fact that we're at a point where we have, a couple of full-time staff members and we pay benefits and we are able to kind of retain good people is something that I feel really good about. I think the other thing that has really kind of happened with the makeover that I'm proud about is, we've really maintained, like Steuart said, a lot of the discipline formats that we originally put together. And we've made a very intentional decision not to make those things easier. And we've done a lot with our application process and with our arrival exam that have really imposed some pretty high standards of horsemanship. And we've really seen that over the years just kind of evolve. we don't get the same number of people applying from year to year, but the people that are committing to the process, the quality of the horsemanship and the commitment has just really kind of changed for the better. And so I think, it was lightning in a bottle the first couple of years. And so now I think it's really just kind of solidified into something that people can use as structure and as a goal for their first year with their horses. And they have the community and they have the support and all the resources that they need to be successful. And we just kind of have built on everything from there. But the community that has kind of come around this organization is really just kind of remarkable for me to observe.
Yeah, love it. Well, yeah, I mean, that's, I competed in 2018 and my intention was to come back and volunteer because I liked it so much. I knew that I'm not going to buy a horse every year for this, but I can still be part of this community. And then, we joke like, oh yeah, results not typical because then I got a job here. But, that whole community aspect of it really, I think, emphasizes that, when you have a former racehorse, you really are part of like this bigger picture. It's not just you and a horse. Like you're part of this community kind of, making the world better for these horses, which maybe that was not Steuart's original goal, but it's pretty cool that that's what you did.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I support it. It just wasn't what made me start it.
Yeah, but that's fine. I think it's a good look at how things evolve over time, right? Like, maybe we've achieved some of those early goals and now we're moving on to the next thing. So that's, I think, going to be our last question. Kirsten, where do you think the next 15 years might take the organization?
It's funny, like listening to Steuart talk about some of the things that he wanted in the very early years and like those motivating factors. And I think, if celebrating our 15-year anniversary has been a whole exercise and like thinking about what we've accomplished and where we're going. And I think there's still a lot that we have to do. And the concept of a registry for the thoroughbred sport horse is still a big one that figures prominently. And we're seeing some positive things that I think are going to move the needle in that direction. But, we're really focused on getting the thoroughbred the credit that it's owed in sport horse, like results and breeding. And that's going to be very data driven. And I think that really goes hand in hand with the increased call for traceability for retired thoroughbreds, or thoroughbred racehorses. So there's that. And I think we still have a lot of work to do to kind of manage the narrative, and really educate the folks on the racing and the breeding side about, you have to look at this as a comprehensive thing. This is, part of planning and breeding. It's cost of doing business and, not just a charitable thing that you opt into. And we're making headway there, and maybe also still just have more work to do. So.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah, that's like the nicest, like summarized version I think we've heard, because we've been talking so much about this, as a staff and everything of like, where are we going next? But it is neat though, because it kind of almost circles back to what inspired Steuart to get started in the first place, which was, his work to better promote, your thoroughbred stallion, and then realizing that there's kind of this warm blood replacement. But, we're learning that like so many of these warm bloods are really mostly thoroughbred. So yeah, in some ways we're kind of like hearkening back to where it all started.
I think there's still more growth. One of the things that didn't happen that I always hoped would happen is that some very, very talented, creative movie maker would discover what was going on in the makeover and produce something that spread the word further than it's ever been spread, and make every young person want to, train an next racehorse and have that experience. And then the other part is I agree with Kirsten that there's still education within the racing industry. The way that we used to always pitch it, and I know you still pitch it partly, is that, this is a market-based approach. There's a market out there. And for the horses that retire sound, which we want that number to increase, as opposed to be, retire unsound because they were over raced or not managed well on the track. we want them to have value. And so there's always been this tension between, the nonprofit organization. They used to be called rescues. Now we call them aftercare organizations, however you define it, as being a charitable act to save the horse. But when these horses are seen as charity cases, then their market value doesn't go up. And their market value has gone up as a result of this work. And I just think that it's really important for the racing industry to celebrate that and to understand that the aftercare organizations are the safety net, but there's a marketplace for the horses that retire sound, and you really need to invest in that marketplace.
Yeah, super. Well, Kirsten and Steuart, thank you so much for joining us today. Congratulations on the 15-year anniversary of the RRP, and here's to 15 more.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us. This was fun.
Yeah.
Cashel has been crafting top-notch products since 1986, designed to make your ride safer, more convenient, and downright enjoyable. From the Crusader Fly Mask, the ultimate fly mask, trusted by riders nationwide, to the blanket top performance felt pad with pressed felt with merino fleece. It's like a spa day for your horse's back. To the beautiful beaded halters, adjustable, durable, and gorgeous. Visit cashelcompany.com today and gear up for the ride of a lifetime. Cashel, where quality meets the saddle. So, Joy, we're always adding new content to the RRP Education Library. So if anyone is following our Facebook page, I try to share articles from the Ed Library onto our Facebook page fairly frequently. But we recently had a new one come out, which I thought was pretty cool. It's in our Ask a Trainer series, and this one is about conquering trailering issues. This was written by a longtime makeover veteran, Lauren Burke, who's a professional in Kentucky. So the question she was answering was, it took us hours to get my new OTTB loaded onto the trailer when we brought him home. How do I make this process smoother and less stressful? And she has a really super in-depth answer with a lot of really good tips and tricks in here. I'm just going to read her intro, which is, I view trailer loading as an extension of having good leading skills. By good leading skills, I mean a horse that is light, confident, and understanding of their partnership with their handler. It's not necessary for a horse that is sticky for loading to have had a previous bad experience or some kind of trauma. The entire process of trailering stacks a lot of common horse triggers. Thoroughbreds tend to be intelligent, multifaceted horses, and those horses benefit from intelligent, multifaceted solutions. I was actually thinking of this when we were speaking earlier about thoroughbreds being so intelligent, Joy, and the way you're working with Astrid. But Lauren offers like so many great ideas, and concepts, and she kind of breaks down the why of all of it, which I always find really helpful when you're, learning new things about training. So, she offers all sorts of, ways to build on the small skills that you need to trailer successfully, through groundwork activities that are actually really similar to what you're doing with Astrid. So I thought this was a really great article. You can find this featured on the homepage right now at therrp.org, or you can go to therrp.org/library and find all of that free, wonderful content.
Well, Kirsten, I have just been loving our Track to Triumph series. It's so cool and so hard to pick from all of the stories that have been submitted so far because each one is unique in its own way. Which one do we have today?
Today we have really a beautiful story from Lindsay Rabideau and Stormy One. So I'm just going to read this in Lindsay's words. Maybe get a tissue. This is a good one. I first met Stormy on the night she was born. I was working an internship on a breeding farm in Kentucky and met this older, experienced broodmare that was approaching her due date shortly after I started my job there. I honestly didn't get to spend a lot of time with this old mare, but I remember she was a small, dark bay, full of life, and just a general good mare. The night came when Stormy was born, and I arrived in the barn just in time to see the foal on the ground and the mare getting up in a panic. She had internal bleeding, and things did not look good. The vet arrived quickly, the foal was separated, and the mare got supportive care. We lost the mare a few days later, and I was the only one by her side as she took her last breath. I promised her I would watch over her last foal. I continued to bottle feed the filly for a few more days until a nurse mare arrived to foster her. The filly soon moved to the other part of the farm while I continued working with the expecting moms, but I still made an effort to go visit my bottle baby as often as I could until my internship ended at the end of the season. I kept in touch with the farm manager and jumped for joy at every update as she progressed to training on the track. I watched her online win her first race as a 3-year-old, and then I watched her come in dead last in her second race. Then another last place finish and her third race. This was my chance. I called the racetrack, I found the trainer's number, and I made that call I've been dreaming about for 3 years. Long story short, involving leaving in the middle of the night to travel halfway across the country with an empty trailer, I was reunited with my heart horse for the first time in years. We met at her first home in the barn she was born. She stepped off the trailer full of stress from a long journey, and I took her lead rope in my hands. It was like the world stood still, and she paused in her anxious dance and really looked at me. I believe she remembered me. For the first few months together, she would always elude an air of confidence and calmness when around me that was not present when I stepped away. We were connected from all that time we spent together when she was just a baby. She trusted me and would try her best to do anything I asked. Now, almost 6 years later, we just enjoy life with trail rides and lower-level eventing. She has taken me to performing at breed demos and the Coliseum at the Equine Affair and taught me to never give up. She is the reason I love the thoroughbred breed. That is a lovely story. So, Lindsay, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Just excited to see that come full circle. And I think it's important, too, to remember how many people are involved with these thoroughbreds' lives from birth to racing and then to careers beyond. So if you would like to share your Track to Triumph story, you can find the form. It is pinned on our Facebook page, which is Retired Racehorse Radio.
What is that time of the episode where we bring on new vocations? And today we have Amanda Tucker from the Lexington facility. We're going to be talking about a very cute thoroughbred towards the end. But before we do, Amanda, I have some questions because we've all ridden this horse, the horse who loves to pull on the reins, and you get frustrated and tired and you want to just have that nice, simple ride, and that they pull it right out of your hands. So how do you ride the horse? Or maybe I should say, how do you stay patient with a horse who likes to yank the reins?
Absolutely. And you're so right. It can be so frustrating when you want to have a nice, peaceful ride and they're just like, no, I want my head, please. So I absolutely get that. And being able to be zen and patient when they keep doing it is definitely, maybe yoga helps with that. I'm not sure. So we get a lot of those guys here because, they come from the track and we re-educating them to go slow and steady. And sometimes they don't want to do that and they're young and they want their head. So it can be, a practice and patient kind of situation. I know that going to CrossFit has definitely helped me being able to be grounded in the saddle. So when they do try and pull against me, I'm ready. My daughter's pony, on the other hand, she's not ready, and he can yank her out of the saddle any opportunity he gets. So being able to kind of be prepared and being able to read them and being grounded and ready to not let them pull you out of the saddle is something that I practice a lot with her and her pony when he's naughty. I like to have her stop and back him a step. So he has a little bit of a negative consequence, oh, I can't do that. I can't just go on my merry way and yank her out of the saddle. She's going to make me stop. She's going to make me walk backwards, and that's going to be annoying. So that's the kind of the two things that we practice here the most. But yeah, also trying to be really zen and being patient and realizing that, they're not trying to be malicious. They're just trying to have maybe a little bit of freedom. And they just gotta learn, and you're gonna get pulled out of the saddle, and not getting frustrated with yourself is a big thing too. It can be really frustrating when you do get pulled out of the saddle. So being able to just say, okay, I'm going to be more mentally prepared next time, and I'm going to ground myself, and we'll do better next time.
What are some of the reasons that a horse might do that? Some of it is maybe green baby horse, who has some energy and wants to have his face loose and kind of take off. Could it also be, a balance issue in a green horse that's not quite sure what to do with himself or what to do with the contact that you're introducing?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of these guys aren't used to going around on a 20-meter circle. They're used to going, much faster on a nice, long, breezy straightaway. And they're trying to balance themselves, and they're so young and they're still growing, and they're just I don't know what to do. And, sometimes we're accidentally balancing with our hands instead of riding with our body. So that's definitely one part of it. So as they get stronger and able to carry themselves, that will definitely decline. And sometimes they just want to stretch, and they want to stretch down and stretch their back, and, trying to be able to give them those stretching moments in their workout to be able to stretch down, when it's appropriate. And when they learn that they can do that when it's appropriate, that'll help also.
Yeah, so it's not just patience in the moment, but it's sort of like patience for the long game too. Like,
Exactly.
okay, we're going to get through this. We just got to keep getting stronger. Everybody strengthen
Exactly.
your core, horses and riders. Do
Yeah,
those crunches.
Yeah, it's not an overnight fix, that's for sure. But with patience and more rides and, stacking those cards up, over time, it will get better if you stay patient and keep working at it and get fitter and they get fitter.
Yeah. So speaking of patience and kind of seeing that long game, that's kind of the impression I get from our adoptable horse of the week this week. Can you tell us about Successful Run?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love this guy. We call him Tiny. He's just a baby. He's 3, but he is 17-1 already.
He is a big boy. These pictures are beautiful. He's a beautiful horse, but you can this is one of those see the potential horses. He's very cute now, but I imagine him in a couple of years where he's really muscled up. He's going to be really, really cool.
Yeah, he's 90% legs right now. So he's kind of like a Bambi. But he's so good under saddle. He's so quiet and he's got such a great brain. So when this guy finishes growing and muscles out, he's going to be a phenomenal partner.
And I should say, I'm not saying speaking of, I do not see any bits of this horse, rooting down or pulling the reins out. This is just one of those, if you're patient and work with this guy, you're going to have a really, really neat horse on your hands. He looks really neat now, but he just looks a little, just in that gangly baby stage. Some of them just are mature looking and ready to go. And he just looks like he just needs a couple of years to kind of bulk up a little bit. He's sent all his energy into growing up.
Exactly. And his brain is so mature. He's just waiting for the rest of his body to catch up. So
yeah, he really I'm watching his video right now. He carries himself so naturally level in the top line, which I always love. As a ranch rider, that's kind of the natural shape we want them to be, just kind of level from pole to wither to croup. And he just kind of ambles right along here. He's a little big for ranch work, but somebody could have a beautiful hunter, I think.
Yeah, as long as you have a ladder at home, he'll be a great horse.
Yeah, it's a long way down for me to dismount to check a gate or get a calf or something. And yeah, it'd need a couple.
Yeah, you definitely need a step ladder or something.
But yeah, this horse looks like he screams show hunter to me. Just he's got a nice kind of slow-legged way of going.
100%. Yep.
I've actually heard that outworks can make good hunters. I have heard a couple other people looking for outworks for the hunter ring. So that's interesting.
Oh yeah, I believe it. He is hunter from nose to tail.
Yeah. Cool dude. Now, do you guys have a sale going on right now?
We do have a Valentine's sale going on. It's $200 off right now through next week.
Okay. It looks like that sale might be wrapped up by the time this episode airs, because I see it's 10th to the 17th. But regardless, his adoption fee is $2,500, which is a bargain for a horse like this. So
yes, it is.
Yeah, good deal. All right, people, get those applications in. We know your application is good for 2 years, and you do not have to have a horse in mind when you apply. So just get your application in, so it's like a get out of jail free card. You're ready to go then when the perfect horse comes up.
Yes, please do. Otherwise, they might be gone by the time you get your application processed. So get those in now.
A lot of times they're gone by the time our episode comes out. So, it's kind of a bummer for listeners, but that's your tip, people. Get those applications in.
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Amanda. And until next time,
I will see you guys next time.
Easy, effective, and eco-friendly fly control starts with fly predators. Fly predators are the organic, natural way to dramatically minimize your fly problem, saving you and your horse from battling them all season long. Take it from our 23,000 plus 5-star reviews. Fly predators are the natural fly control that works. Learn more about fly predators and other Spalding Labs fly control solutions at spalding-labs.com.
You can find our show notes and links to today's guests on the website at horseradionetwork.com. Like us on Facebook and Instagram. Just search for Retired Racehorse Radio. Follow us on Twitter at Horse Radio. You can find me on Instagram at The Horseback Rider and on Facebook at Jobber Bill, Racehorse to Ranch Horse. Listeners are also finding me on Threads, which is also The Horseback Rider. I don't put a lot of horsey stuff there. It's just me struggling to write a novel, but you are welcome to follow me there as well. My email is Kristen@horseradionetwork.com.
That's super fun. I did not know you were on Threads. You can find me on Instagram at MissFitMare, and my email is joy@horseradionetwork.com. Thank you to our sponsors, Kentucky Performance Products, Cashel Company, and Spalding Labs. and to our partners, New Vocations Racehorse Adoption Program and the Retired Racehorse Project. Don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network, part of Equine Network, at horseradionetwork.com. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, as it really helps us grow and keep bringing you all of the content that you love. Remember to set your goals high and love to learn from every ride.
And cow side leg.
Bye, guys.